With me today, I got 2/3 of the NFT Now crew, Sam and Matt. Welcome back to Mint. Thank you for being on again. How's it going?
Thank you for having us. It's great to be back. Going so well, man. Like, wow, what a ride, like, since our last conversation.
Yeah, no, honored to be back here. It definitely has been. I think it was, November of 2021. And how much has changed since then? Pretty much everything. So
everything
to dive in.
New cycles, new NFT Now, new me, new year, all the above. It was November 9th, 2021 specifically. And you're right, a lot has gone down, especially the market. The market's down. We are in a bear market. Talking about all things.
Big facts.
Talking about all things NFT Now, and more specifically, tokenized media. You guys have been pretty vocal about those two words joined together for a minute now. I feel like we're all on this boat figuring out what the next phase of media looks like in its conjunction with Web3. So I'm excited to hear what your takes are, especially as you introduce the Now Pass, the NFT Now Pass to the world.
Yeah.
So guys, really quick, give us a quick brief on yourselves individually, 30 seconds, and what NFT Now is for those who don't know, and we'll kick it off.
Sure. So I'm Matt Medved, co-founder, CEO, and editor-in-chief of NFT Now. Come from 15 years in music and media. Previously founded Billboard Dance, Billboard's dance electronic music brand. Ran Spin Magazine as editor-in-chief, and ran content at Modern Luxury, the lifestyle publisher, before co-founding NFT Now in January 2021. NFT Now is on a mission to empower the creators of culture and to bring Web3 technology from niche to mainstream.
Yep. And my name is Sam Hysell. I'm also one of the co-founders and the chief strategy officer of NFT Now. Prior to NFT Now, I helped Gary Vee stand up Vayner Talent, which was kind of replicating what Gary had done with his own brand for other talent before leaving to start my own agency called Knox Media that worked with a range of different leading record labels, musicians to help them create and distribute content, grow and convert communities online. And it was actually, I was having a conversation as to how NFTs and Web3 could change and impact the music industry. And that sent me deep down the rabbit hole. Matt and I had crossed paths by way of both working in music and saw a lot of problems that were prevalent in that industry that were being addressed by this technology. So it was great to become, to co-found this business together and really be united around our mission of empowering the creators of culture.
When I think about NFT Now, I think about kick-ass events, awesome editorial, creators of culture. Like, these are the first few things that pop into my head, and soon to be tokenized media. And a lot has happened since the last time we were on the podcast, November 9th, 2021 to be exact. Matt, give me the rundown. What has happened since November 9th, 2021 at NFT Now?
Oh my God, what hasn't happened? Well, look, we have grown as a team. We have grown as executives, and the space has just grown in general as well, even despite the current downturn. Super exciting. So since we last spoke in 2021, we did our first edition of the Gateway, which is our leading flagship event franchise. Took over a bank building in downtown Miami and turned into a massive audiovisual gallery. After that, in calendar year 2022, we grew in every facet of the business. We also launched the NFT 100, which is our leading editorial franchise, recognizing the 100 top creators and community leaders in the space. And in addition to growing the team and really starting to level up different franchises like Next Up, which focuses on rising artists, Runway, which focuses on digital fashion. We got some exciting things coming in the works on the AI and gaming front as well. We also brought back the Gateway, a Web3 metropolis, in December of 2022. 5-day Web3 Arts and Culture Festival, took over 2 city blocks, 12 buildings, and brought the Web3 community together for a really, really special event that was also free to the registered public. It was really important for us to make that inclusive. And now we're starting off 2023, hitting the ground running, super strong. Getting ready to, we just got fresh off of the announcement of the Now Pass at NFT Paris, and really looking forward to its launch this month.
That was like boom, 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 one thing after the next. Sam, did Matt miss anything?
And there's a lot we didn't even mention, but I had to keep it to the highlights.
Wait, Sam, those were like Matt's highlights. How would you explain the last since the last time we hopped on the pod?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been interesting. I think as there undoubtedly has been a little bit kind of gone into this bear market phase, I think we've definitely seen a shift towards builders and artists and creators that are much more committed to sustainable long-term models. Definitely flushed out a lot of the bad actors, some of the people that were more kind of looking for the quick cash grab. So I think that's created a very productive force within the space by way of really focusing on sustainable business models, sustainable companies. I mean, even seeing some of the stuff in tech you've been building has been great to see. So that's been great. And on our side, it's always kind of trying to be the signal in the noise, finding the stories worth telling. Like I think we built a powerful platform and a spotlight, really able to showcase the people, the projects, the builders that we believe are creating the positive precedents that can really unleash the potential of this technology. So day in, day out, it's amazing that we're able to really empower and showcase and uplift these different people.
You guys have had quite a journey. And I mentioned a few of the keywords that come to mind when you think of NFT now. And you guys are now transitioning into this new era of positioning NFT now as like this tokenized media movement. That's like a good way to sort of frame it. How would you explain that? How would you describe this next phase of NFT now?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And Adam, I think like to really understand the next phase, you also have to understand where we've been and what's broken about the current Web2 media model. I think it's really important to recognize that from the very beginning, we wanted to do things differently with NFT Now. So even in our early phase, if you go to nftnow.com right now, what you won't find on the site are programmatic advertisements. We don't believe that that's a viable business model. We believe it misaligns incentives, and I'll elaborate a little bit about that. But we also we want to leave that shit in Web 2. And you also won't find any pixels or cookies. We don't track our users. We believe privacy is a fundamental human right, and consent is important. And so from the very beginning, we have had these principles, and we always knew that the last thing we wanted NFT Now to be was just a traditional Web 2 media company covering Web 3. That would be a huge missed opportunity. And we all, coming from various facets of traditional media, myself from the legacy media world with Billboard and Spin and Modern Luxury, Alejandro with on the business side of media with Elite Daily and Verizon's acquisition side, and Sam with Vayner Talent and Knox, we've seen firsthand just how broken Web 2 media is. And what do I mean by that? Like, I think like a lot of things, like these kind of things that people say will resonate with people. Like, like this is going to get a lot of clicks, like being paid in exposure, like needing more reach all the time, this like endless like drive to continue to like grow top line growth. Where did that come from, right? Like it's almost, we've internalized it almost because it's just been such an integral part of like the media game, for lack of a better word, over the past, few decades. And so, but it really came to a fore with the rise of like digital media and social media. When social media opened up the traffic floodgates to all of these different media sites, all of a sudden media companies saw this opportunity, this explosion in traffic, this opportunity via programmatic advertisements to capitalize on that. The rise of ad tech and the like, for those who don't know what programmatic ads are, those are those like annoying banner ads, which is like many of you may have them blocked with an ad blocker, but like, they're all over like the sites that you go to every day, everything from like New York Times to YouTube to most media sites that are not NFT Now. And the thing is, the way that works is like the more people who visit your website, the more impressions the ads get, and the more that platform gets paid. And so all of a sudden, media companies became incentivized to increase the number of clicks, page views, eyeballs at all costs. And what it did was it created this what I like to call a clickbait race to the bottom, as algorithms like rewarded more sensationalist headlines, quicker trigger fingers, and repetitive coverage. A lot of media companies became indistinguishable from each other. The quality of coverage declined. Public trust in media eroded as well. And so as people chased, this algorithmic traffic, and Web2 media companies became reliant on platforms like Facebook to really maintain their traffic goals. And so they found out the hard way when in 2015, Facebook changed their algorithm and it decimated the traffic sources of the hundreds of media companies. It led to declining revenue. It led to layoffs and the like. I saw this all happen during my time. And why did that happen? It's because in Web2 digital media, you are the product. Like, people are the product. They are monetizing your eyeballs. They are selling them. And the thing is that what's really flawed about that is that in Web2 media, it's all about audience scale rather than audience quality. It's quantity over quality. It's all about audience scale versus audience depth. It doesn't matter who you are, your eyeballs are treated the same. And that's actually like a really short-sighted way of thinking about like the role of a media brand in 2023. I think what's also really important to say is that because we were all kind of like boiled down to this single metric of traffic, you know, literally like the brightest minds in Silicon Valley began like building ad tech and like optimizing to capture your attention. We became the constant attention economy. And as a result, publishers actually began prioritizing their advertisers over their audiences. Finally, like this all led to attacks on privacy. Platforms began tracking users all across the web without explicit consent in order to sell more ads. This all fed into that machine. And this reached a point where, you know, a really unsustainable point where public trust in media has eroded, where now consumers are loyal to the headline and not the brand because media companies tend to be interchangeable. And it's become this like really like surface level, shallow, one-way street, transactional relationship between audiences and media brands. And we just know that there's a better way. If there's one thing that we've seen with Web3 is that, you know, the Web 2 model was all about audience and building audience. Like I said, it's like an audience is aware that you exist, whereas Web 3 is predicated on the idea of community. It's a buzzword that gets thrown around a lot, but it actually is also like undergirds this entire space. So community wants to see you win. In fact, community wants to win together. And actually in Web3, they actually have a stake in doing so. So what we're looking to do with NFT Now and the Now network, for which the Now Pass is your access key, is to pioneer a community-centric media model in which our community is empowered within this ecosystem, not only to you know, have sovereignty around how they interact with us and consume content, but also to have a say in what gets covered in community curated content series, to actually be able to share in the value that they're creating and earn rewards by participating, engaging, sharing, contributing to NFT Now. And so there's a lot to unpack there. There's a lot to get into. But what we really see is that this Web 2 media model is irrevocably broken. It is unfixable. And the only way that we are going to move forward and create the deeper relationships that we care about is by embracing and utilizing Web3 technology to really create communities with aligned incentives.
There's a lot to unpack in that statement. The first thing that I want to touch upon is there's nothing worse than getting to a website and the first thing you see is your entire page just covered with ads. Like you can't even scroll through the article. There's one that hits you from the top. There's one that hits you from the bottom, and there's like a pop-up from the right and a pop-up from the left. And they're like, wait, I came to read this current event, and like, what do you want me to do? You know, it's like, what do I do? It's like a lot of also like there's a few like crypto native media outlets that are at fault for this too. And I don't want to name names, but if you're active reading the web and the crypto news, you'll see a bunch of them kind of like target you with this model. So that's number one. There's nothing worse than that, and I completely agree with you, Matt Medved. And the next thing that you sort of said is it's hard to create depth in Web 2 media, and that I guess you're arguing that Web 3 is an opportunity to enable depth, and NFTs are sort of the premise to kind of unlock that. Talk about that for a minute. Like, why do you guys think, and Sam, you as well, like, why do you think NFTs are that medium to enable the depth that we kind of took advantage of and we lost in Web 2?
Yeah, I think it's a couple key points. I'd say for starters, and we've seen this across different verticals within the broader Web3 landscape, which is that Web3 and NFTs give birth to a more valid and sustainable model for the promise of 1,000 true fans. You're able to have more viable economics off of smaller communities and smaller fan bases. You see this very clearly within the kind of Web3 music landscape, where people are able to generate the equivalent revenue of millions of streams off of 100 collectors. So right there, it's kind of flipping the script. Instead of optimizing solely for reach, we really are able to have a better economic model to optimize for depth amongst a tighter knit community. I think the other component too is that I think in a lot of ways, Web3 tools and NFTs are just incentive alignment machines. They create deeper levels of participation, deeper levels of loyalty. People are able to access different levels of rewards and status within communities by way of their journey as a collector. So I think on our side too, it's like we kind of have said numerous times that we feel we should serve people opportunities, not ads. So by having these mechanics where we can really reward participation, drive deeper connection, drive more value, it really starts to create a more positive flywheel that revolves around delivering value to our community rather than trying to build as big of an audience as we can just so we can sell ads against their eyeballs.
There's something to be said, though, that I think Web3 unlocks a new form of quote unquote advertising, because the global, and I'm reading this on Google right now, the global digital advertising market in 2023 is valued to be $681.39 billion. Like, there's no way that's just going to evaporate sort of over the next few years. I find that hard to believe, but I feel like there's an opportunity to create more depth, as you said, Matt and Sam, as you guys argued, but also do it in a way where it's more custom and tailored to the individual that's sort of surfacing content. And when you look at on-chain data, you can sort of surface and deliver things that are unique to that individual that they'll actually may even appreciate and say thank you to. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts around like what the future of digital advertising even looks like, or if you guys are on the boat that it's going to completely disappear.
Oh, it definitely won't completely disappear. It's going to be revolutionized as well. And I think, like you said, well, one amazing thing about Web3 is that there's on-chain data allows a deeper level of understanding and also connection with people. And so I think that what we're going to see is a much smarter form of advertisement, a much more genuine and authentic form of advertisement that can actually be channeled into the places where it will be most impactful. I mean, like, what if you think about it this way, like the Web3 media, tokenized media, is all about super serving communities. It's all about understanding that not everybody needs the same things. And we're not under no assumptions that, for example, our community at nftnow are all going to need the same things. So like we have, for example, we know that we have a lot of creators in our community, artists who are quite successful, also artists who are photographers or the like, or poets. You know, there's so many different creative elements now who are looking to get into Web3 and looking to succeed. You know, they're going to be looking for different things than, for example, builders in the space, people who have projects, people who are launching protocols, etc. Then you've also got the collectors in the space, the people who are trading, or, you know, moving it more from like an art side of investment and collecting. And then you've also got the brands who are looking to enter the space too. And all of these different segments have different creative and consumer priorities. And that's actually a good thing. That's actually a thing that I think will help tokenized media platforms differentiate between these audiences and help create opportunities for each of these audiences and these different communities, rather than painting everybody with the same broad brushstroke of Web 2. I think like that's what we find so objectionable about Web 2 media and programmatic advertisement, is that it makes no distinction between audiences. So like, let's be real, a bot in Vietnam that happened to come across your page is treated the same as, the CEO of a leading NFT marketplace. And these are two very different value propositions at play. And that's why, like, if you think about it, there's actually a ton of value, like Sam said, in sometimes smaller, more niche audiences and communities that contain really high value users for whatever that media platform is looking for, and potentially advertisers that can go along with that. So it's not necessarily that like advertisement is the enemy. Advertisement is a natural part of human marketplaces and commerce. It's been going on for centuries. What I think was really objectionable is the algorithmic game that specifically programmatic advertisement created, which was entirely indiscriminate, boiled everyone down to one metric, traffic, and created perverse incentives for media companies to actually throw all other concerns and all other priorities to the wayside in order to prioritize that. And that's why we found ourselves in the place where we are, where, where people have lost trust in media because of clickbait headlines, where people are creating content simply to surface on the Google algorithm to get the clicks to satisfy the advertisers, versus actually thinking, how can this piece of content actually create value for the community at play? And I'll even give an example, Adam. We, at nftnow, we've done some partnered content. And we hold it to an incredibly high standard. We said no to almost everyone during our first year. The first people we said yes to were Coinbase and United Masters. And we did a partnered content campaign with them around the top music NFT moments of the year. Now that piece is of all time. And what was really critical there was we knew that we had so many people in the music NFT ecosystem that were coming to our site, that were coming through our funnel, and we did an incredibly credible piece of content that we would have already wanted to cover no matter what. Like we would have wanted to do music NFT moments anyway, and we did not in any way like compromise editorial credibility around that. And it was such a great piece of content that Coinbase United Masters wanted to put their name on it. And that was a win-win for everyone, because not only did it drive revenue for us, it drove awareness for them. And it did so in a really credible way where it was actually really targeted towards users that would actually care. And that would actually make an impact in. And so it's just one example, but I just want to give an example and make it clear that like, we're not saying that all advertisement is going to go out the window.
Right.
Quite the contrary. I just think it's going to be able to be done in a much more empathetic, smart, and on-chain way.
I completely agree. The way I think about ads at the podcast is I give out free NFTs to my listeners. People collect them every single season. And then from there, in turn, I know who my audience is, and I could surface them better content and better forms of monetization that are interest aligned. An example is noticing that a lot of my community is native to Zora, bringing people from Zora onto the podcast, surfacing content that they already enjoy, and seeing an increase in downloads accordingly. Noticing that a lot of my community creates like lens derivatives or nouns derivatives, trying to bring people as sponsors from those communities onto the podcast, offering deals and services that pertain to those communities and those brands, and everybody wins because you know who these people are from a high level perspective in their activity on chain, and you can derive really cool insights and deliver more thoughtful actions accordingly. So I completely agree with you. One thing that you said, Matt, that was super interesting is being able to understand who reads the content, because you compared a bot in Indonesia to an executive at like a prominent company, and they hold two different weights. Now, what that got me thinking, and I'm going to shoot the shit right now, maybe a completely new idea over here, okay? Sure. But we love seriously ideas. It seriously opened up a rabbit hole.
Wins. Like it's the idea of meritocracy.
You're hired.
The wallet is your gate, is your gateway into Web3. And if you could tell based off the layers of somebody's wallet what content they're also reading and be able to service those insights to people. So if you could basically curate content based off like the top 10% of Ethereum active users and track what they're watching and surface that to other people, there's something interesting over there. Is that what you're implying to with being able to value one reader from another reader, like determining the things that they're consuming and being able to create more interesting content around that? Or how are you guys thinking about it? Or is my head just like, am I in a completely different rabbit hole right now?
No. Like I think you're bringing up some great points. I think where our head is more about empowering the users themselves to make it clear, like where they stand, and to make it clear what they're interested in, and to have their voices heard. And so like that's why one of the like key parts of the Now Network are community curated content series. So for example, I love to give this example because this one is really close to my heart. We launched the Next Up franchise at nftnow to support rising artists. And so we actually spoke to our community. We did some tweets and Discord posts like, hey, like, what could we be doing more of? And people were like, you guys do a really great job of supporting established artists, but like, we want to see more coverage of rising artists. And we were like, say less. Like, we love to support rising artists. This is about empowering creators. And so we launched Next Up, and it's been really special. Like, if you go to the first Next Up that we did in January 2022, you'll be like, these aren't rising artists, but they were back then. You know, it's like Alpha Centauri Kid, Drift, Diana Sinclair, like before they'd really popped, and like, there were like no misses on that. And so it's been really special to create that franchise. But the thing is, at the end of the day, I don't want to be a gatekeeper. Like, we didn't get into Web3 just to become the new gatekeepers. Like, that's not what this is about. Like gatekeeping is all Web2. And so even still, when we do Next Up, like right now in our current form, it's like I get together with the editorial team. We all talk about artists we think are doing great. We check metrics. We do our due diligence, our research, and then we select editorially 5 artists. But like, it's still us, making the decision there. And what I'm excited about is being able to open that up to the community. So what we're going to do is we're going to, Next Up, for example, we're going to open it up, turn it into a community curated token curated registry, a TCR, where there will be on-chain voting, where community members are empowered to not only vote on them, but also put forward nominations. And obviously now pass holders will be empowered in that regard to be able to put through like the, to put artists forward and vote and the like, and actually have a say in series like this. And we're going to be like, next up is just the beginning. There's a lot of plans for that, but like, so it's less about finding more, it's less about using on-chain ways to like track people and more about giving them a direct voice in that as well. Sam, I'm not sure if there's anything you want to add to that, but feel free.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's ways in which we can create contextual experiences for different users. And so I think we're not necessarily approaching this from a one-size-fits-all capacity either. Like we've done a lot of research, kind of paid attention to who are the members of our community, actually in kind of developing the Now Pass and the Now Network, did a series of different customer development research interviews where we spoke with a very broad range of different people in the space and really started to see problem sets and challenges and opportunities emerge across what we've kind of defined as 4 core segments of our community, being creators, collectors, brands, and builders. So I think for each of them, the goals and pains and challenges of each segment are different. So it's similar to what Matt was alluding to. It's how we go about creating opportunities, creating value for those people will also differ as well. So I think there's a lot of interesting and exciting mechanics as to how we want to deliver and deliver value, reward participation amongst our community. And that's a couple different examples.
Yeah. The theme of season 7, which you guys are a part of now, is create content worth collecting. And tokenized media falls in line with that tagline. When you guys think of that tagline of creating content that's worth collecting and trying to understand how that fits into the overall vision of tokenized media, where do you see the two play intact? Like Sam, anything come to mind with that?
Yeah, I'll share some stuff, and I'm sure Matt will dive in as well. I think that it's twofold when it's content worth collecting, because I think on one side it's just the value and think about how people would have these cover stories of iconic magazines throughout the years, right? Where there's just these iconic moments in times where people want to collect. So I think that's one side of the equation where there's just such a deep level of emotional resonance that drives this desire to have a deeper level of ownership and collectability. I think the other side too is very much it's not necessarily the content on its own, although that's a big piece, but it's also what you're able to get as a result of having this collectible and of being able to access other opportunities or access other rewards by way of actually collecting it. Whereas the collectability of the content is really just a kind of a validation that this person is down for the cause, that they do want to participate, that they do want to be able to reap some of the other rewards that we'll be providing to people within the Now Network. But love to hear your take too, Matt.
Yeah, no, I think that nailed it. It's like, I remember, so, I come from legacy media. I remember, the collectability around magazine covers. And obviously we saw that as a proven model with everything that Time did into the space with like that legacy, that history. But we could take it a lot further than that. Like I remember, at Billboard, we released a box set around the BTS covers, right? Like the covers sold out immediately. This is very Web 2. These are literally physical magazines, but sold out immediately, 7 figures in revenue immediately. That's the power of fandom. But imagine this: those BTS covers, they're cool. I'm sure the fans hung them on the walls and like love them. But imagine that they got them backstage at the show. Imagine that they got them entered into a raffle for signed CDs at the next not CDs, but you know what I mean, like signed merchandise at the next release. Exactly. Like there's also ways that these tokens, this tokenized media, and its equivalents can actually serve as opportunities to reward most loyal fans. So like, even if you think about the podcast we're on right now, if this gets tokenized, maybe in the future, someone who owns this, who's a fan of us and is a fan of what we're doing and is like, you know what, I'm here for NFT Now, I'm here for Atom, I'm here for Mint. Maybe they get entered into an allow list for an upcoming drop in NFT Now or something that Mint is doing. And so like, what's amazing is that, by tokenizing media and allowing people who are in the moment, who feel the resonance, who also understand, what, I may not know exactly what Matt, Sam, and Alejandro are doing with NFT Now, but I really believe in the vision and I understand and I want to take this journey with them. Or like, I really believe what Adam is doing with Mint. I've been following it for 7 seasons and I think I just see their trajectory. They're able to share in that ride. They're able to go from just being fans to also being, in some sense, shareholders. And that's the power of tokenized media, is giving people an ownership in storytelling, giving them ownership in, having a say and also a share in the future trajectory of their favorite media brands. And I think like what's also really critical and really interesting to think about is like they think about the trajectory of like technology has always driven media forward, from literally like the Gutenberg printing press, right, to like that enabled print media, to Web 1, you know, and the first like digital media websites, to, you know, going into the, you know, the social media era, and then the mobile era. Remember when everyone's websites were designed for desktop, and then they were like, oh shit, like now everyone's on mobile. They had to adapt for mobile too. Tokenized media is the next phase. It's the next phase, and the sooner that publishers understand this, the more of a head start they're going to be able to get here. And that's really critical, because if you look back historically, it was the publications that were early to embrace digital, and the ones that were early to embrace mobile, who thrived on those platforms and maintain their relevance till today. You know, I know this very, very well because I started my career at Billboard. Billboard's been around since the 1890s. But Billboard, notably, was very early to embrace digital at a time that it wasn't that popular. And that's one of the reasons why Billboard has the huge digital footprint that it has and maintains its relevance till today. It's like, this is just the next natural phase of technological progression driving media forward. But what's really critical is this time it actually it has an opportunity to actually create and change the models and create more fairer models that literally benefit everyone and allow communities to take ownership in a way that just previously wasn't possible.
I love that. I think it's very spot on. I think what you guys are building towards is very interesting, and the ability to tokenize content and to create experiences around that and to align incentives with your readers and your listeners and everyone in between is definitely the way forward. I'm curious if you guys have experienced or can imagine any challenges that come with building a Web3 native media outlet and focusing around tokenized media as a core primitive of what you're doing. Any challenges sort of like that you faced already or that you think have yet to come?
Well, one thing I'll speak to, I'm sure Sam has some too, is like old habits die hard, right? Like we have this Web 2 media model, like pretty much like pounded into our heads for the past, 2 decades, right? It's all about like getting the most eyeballs, getting the most followers, getting the most audience. Like it's all about that top line growth. And it's hard to break, both as an individual and as an organization, those habits and it doesn't happen overnight. It's easy to fall back on that, right? But what you actually realize is that is what led us to where we are. This clickbait race to the bottom, this era of like indiscriminate media companies and pervasive lack of trust, right? And so like what we need to remember is that there is a better way now. However, it's not only cutting edge, like we are the ones cutting the edge. Like, we actually went out and we're like, yo, like, who's building tokenized media like that? And it just wasn't being done in the way that we saw fit. And we're like, you know what? It's the pioneers, it's the pioneers, path, which is you got to go create what is going to drive this space forward. And so, I think that breaking old habits is really key. I think also helping legacy players understand what's happening and why they need to be a part of this revolution. I mean, we saw this with digital. I think about all the print dinosaurs that took so long to embrace digital. Many of them never recovered. Many of them were lost along the way. And so there's a similar thing here, especially because the learning curve is arguably even more difficult. I always say I went through the crypto learning curve in 2013 with Bitcoin. I still had to go through the NFT learning curve in 2020, and that was still challenging. There are a lot of people going through both concurrently. And that's really difficult with the current UX and usability and the like. And so I think there's both internal challenges around like ensuring that like you level up your mindset and unlearn the things that have become so ingrained that it's like so natural after so many years in media. And then also figuring out how to credibly advocate for what is the future to to a market that you also need to meet where they are.
That makes sense. Sam, from your perspective, from like an operational perspective, what are some of the challenges that you think you'll face or that you've already faced with trying to build out this new and improved arm of NFT Now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a couple things. I mean, there's 2 points. One's a little more operational, one's just more broad macro perspective. I think on the operational side, I think it's scaling community, right? Like we're speaking around the notion of 1,000 true fans and super serving our core audience. I think that is the most important thing for us, for the Now Network, is having an incredible experience for the people that are participating, giving them opportunities to elevate within their career, access to various rewards by way of different participation, exclusive access to different events. I think over time, it's striking that balance, is the scaling community without having a kind of adverse effect towards the value that you're providing to every single community member. I think the other component, and this is on the more macro side when it just comes to challenges, and I think this is a challenge but also an opportunity, is Matt kind of spoke to the fact that trust in media at a macro level is kind of waning. I think we've also concurrently just seen the rise of this creator economy and just seeing all these different creators who have really started to eat into that kind of pie of attention. So we're just generally seeing this big rise of creators. So I think even with NFT Now, I'm not sure if you've seen, but K-Money has come in and replaced Matt as our CEO. K-Money is the director of social video at NFT Now. So I think on our side, to the extent that we're that we're finding really innovative ways to partner with creators in the same way we want to bring power to our community to contribute to things like Next Up and involve our community in the curation that we're doing. We're also bringing that same spirit of innovation towards how can we better involve and participate with different creators within the broader landscape as well. So it's not just like us speaking to our audience, but our community of creators, of participants are all able to collectively participate and be rewarded for their participation within their own success.
Yeah, it's about getting out of this mentality that like media is a one-way street, right? Like if you look at these legacy brands, they're just literally just like, because they're so incentivized that to drive people to their website at all cost to get their eyeballs, to monetize, and then discard for these programmatic ads. They are not like, that's the only conversation they're having, is a one-way street to your eyeballs. And it's not sustainable. It's not empathetic. It's not credible. It's not authentic. And like what's really important is, like Sam said, understanding that tokenized media is a two-way street. It's actually more than a two-way street, because you're creating an ecosystem where people can connect and create value together in a community-centric model, and do it all within this framework. It's really like it's almost like a salve to like the Web2 media's like long-standing wounds.
What do you think publishing looks like in the context of tokenized media?
Yeah, great question. Look, I think at a certain level, like all media will live on chain in some form. That doesn't mean that all media will be, traded, in terms of like having speculative value or having like, collectible value or the like. But I think that the blockchain is absolutely incredibly powerful in terms of documenting in an immutable way, what the discourse and the conversations that we're having. Like, think about how many websites have been lost and all of their content gone because the website went out of business because of a broken, flawed business model, and the servers, they couldn't afford to keep the servers, and it's a real thing people worry about. It's like, what's going to happen to the archives of these publications? And so I think we're going to see a scenario in which all media, all published media, will live on chain in some form. That doesn't mean that all of it will be collectible, but I do think that there will be the archival element of that. Then I think what you're also going to see is really critical collectible media around really major moments, around really major releases, around like things that people have that emotional resonance with about like, I was there, or I believe, or I want to be a part of this, you know, those forces. Because at the end of the day, human behavior and human psychology doesn't change, just the technology finds new ways to empower, enable, and cater to it, right? And so all of those things that we are feeling, you know, like when we see, for example, if you see your favorite musician on the cover of your publication, you're like, damn, I love that. Like, I want to be a part of that, whether that's in the traditional model that was like, you know what, I'm gonna buy that magazine, I'm gonna put it on my wall, right? In this context, it'll be like, you know what, I'm gonna mint that, and I'm gonna hold that. You know, like those moments are going to become largely on chain, and that's going to be a really powerful thing as we think about harnessing that. And this is going to go beyond just articles. This is going to be editorial. This is going to be social. This is going to be audio. This is going to be video. This is going to be like a holistic and an all-encompassing ecosystem for tokenized media. We're obviously in the early innings. And one thing I think that's really critical as we think about the Now Pass and we think about the Now Network, the Now Network is really the foundation for all of the initiatives that we have underway to build the future of tokenized media. So we're not going to go from it's not going to happen overnight, right? It's going to be built over time, and I think that that's really critical. Just like we've seen the adoption of this technology take time within these market cycles of awareness and the like between the bulls and the bears. Like, you know, it's going to be a long haul for the future of tokenized media, but I also think things are going to move quicker than people think. You know, we've already seen, for example, just the flood of big brands into Web3. We've seen things that would have been unimaginable, 2 years, unimaginable when we last spoke. November 2021, like if you had told me some of these things would be happening, you know, like I would have been like, nah, dude, that's like 5 years out. You know what I mean? And so it happens. It's like slowly, but then like all at once. And so we clearly see where the puck is going. We recognize that this is the next evolution of the internet, and it's the next evolution of storytelling, and ownership is the critical component to that. Never bet against that. Never bet against the power of storytelling, and never bet against technology.
As you're speaking, another thought comes to mind, and you try to think of the phases and stages of tokenized media. We're at the inner cusp of trying to understand what tokenized media even means. And this next thing that I'm going to try to like illustrate is something that a thought that I'm formulating as we speak. Okay, so the way Mint looks at it, the way nftnow looks at it, a couple other people look at it, it's basically taking pieces of content, tokenizing that content, either doing a membership pass around your community to try to get them into the ecosystem from like a top level funnel, curate experiences through that accordingly. So it's either publishing content and minting content and tokenizing content that's then collected, either issuing a membership pass that then gets into this community of more tokenized content. I think that's phase one. I think phase two is, if we go back to what we were talking about earlier, and we say that the creator is either the writer, graphic designer, whatever branch it extends from, actually ends up being the platform, then media companies will probably act as aggregators. Because if I'm the platform, then when I publish content, I can mint that piece as an NFT. And if nftnow is sort of situated in this right proper structure, you could then aggregate that creator's content and surface it through your editorial, right? So instead of actually publishing content from a traditional website, you guys will act as aggregators, empowering writers to mint their articles and then surfacing that content through nftnow for the reader. So you guys would focus on distribution, driving traffic, right, and getting eyeballs on content, while at the same time recruiting these really talented writers, reporters, and you, Matt, acting as head of editorial, surfacing that content to the surface. Because what that will actually do, it will create equitable playing ground, right?
That's right.
And if the creator is not necessarily like publishing on WordPress, that's via nftnow's database, right? It's actually publishing content on chain. That on-chain content then gets surfaced across these news aggregators. Like that's like the next step that I see, like a really like extreme, far-fetched tokenized media company publishes content as NFTs, and then we have the right proper things in place to actually read and consume that tokenized media. But I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah. And look, I don't think it's that far-fetched. You know, I think that we have a long way to go in terms of the evolution of tokenized media, but I think that that's right, and I think that in many ways we will see that model, and we also like in a sense it speaks to what we are really thinking through in stages, which is progressive decentralization, right? Like you think about that model where you have a decentralized network of contributors who are all kind of are like feeding into that, but really have their own autonomy, have their own their own IP, their own licensing, their own everything. But being able to kind of like aggregate that through, it's a more decentralized model. And so we're thinking through this progressive decentralization for NFT now, like what do those first steps look like? A lot of that is these more like these content, like community curated content series. Sam can speak a bit to this like creator network as well that we're kind of like outlining broad brushstrokes for. And I think that at the end of the day, it's really about incentivizing participation and increasing the town square, so that it's not just the big centralized media publications that have access to the narrative, but really being able to bring many more voices to the fold. Sam, do you want to speak maybe to the creator side at the high level?
Yeah, I could speak to the high level. It's as far as what I can and can't share. I do think, but no, I'm fully aligned. I think what you said is brilliant. And I think aligns with a lot of the ways that we're thinking, which is that when you think about the different kind of stakeholders involved in this broader landscape of like media attention, a lot of it is creators, and I think media publications that will win are the ones that are able to create the best models to partner with different creators. So I think the incentivization mechanics don't solely rely between like media publisher, in-house staff, and audience and community, but a big subset of that community is actual creators. So going back to the notion that kind of for us, Web3 and a lot of this NFT tooling is really incentive alignment machines. We definitely are spending a lot of time thinking and working to ensure that we can have great alignment, incentive alignment with creators and our community.
That makes a lot of sense. I want to understand how you guys are thinking about sort of the future of tokenized media as it pertains to the Now Pass and the Now network. Like, where is your head at with where you want to take this beast?
Yeah, so look, the Now Pass, just to make it clear, the Now Pass is like your access pass to the Now network. And we think about like everything that we're offering, it's all through the Now network. I think like it's really critical to understand that this is all very much a first step. We're not going to figure this out overnight. We're being really intentional and like taking our time to create something sustainable. This is, as I said, the foundation for all of our initiatives in building the future of tokenized media. And so experimentation is a critical part of being a pioneer. And so, our commitment is long-term. And if I were to say to you that like, yo, we got everything figured out, the next 5 years, boom, boom, that would be disingenuous because it would also be really short-sighted because things change so fast in the space. The people who succeed in Web3 and beyond are people who are nimble and able to understand that the technologies are changing every day. You're able to embrace that. Hey, what made sense there before this protocol was created may not make sense after that. But I can tell you that we have a very clear North Star in terms of how we envision this process really being able to super serve our community with exclusive content and access, being able to increase retention. I think that's a really critical part. So much of traditional media is focused on engagement and these short-term like spikes and the like. We're looking at retention. How do we keep people coming back? How do we reach our most valuable users, the most valuable community members, and super serve them and reward them for participating, creating deeper, more authentic connections and a greater sense of loyalty. And then also, as I've said, decentralizing that content creation and curation. And so, there's a lot, there's so much that like we can't speak to right now, but we have our incredible CTO and creative director, Aaron Baker, who, by the way, also designed the Now Pass artwork, which is fucking amazing, by the way.
Wow.
I gotta say it. Like, I love it. It's like fully original generative artwork that he created. Based on this idea of this concept of being the signal in the noise. And that's kind of been one of our mantras as we built NFT Now over the past 2 years, is about like being this, like building credibility and trust and being that trusted signal in the noise. Because let's be real, during the bull run, there was a lot of noise and there's still a lot of noise, but it's like, all right, what matters? Why does it matter? Make sure it's the good actors who get covered and all that. Make sure it's the real like innovators and the like. And so like that signal in the noise concept was really critical for us. And so Aaron created this incredible generative artwork based on that concept, which like has all these nuances, and it's got like, you know, rarity traits, exclusive attributes, things like that, which will all, you know, they'll all have significance. So we can't, you know, can't speak to everything yet, but like, you know, it's really, really special. And he is also the one building out the product offerings of the Now Network. So he's the, you know, he's one of those like crazy multi-threats. He's a coder, he's an artist, he's everything, you know. And what's crazy is, so like what he has some incredible like dynamics and mechanics in the works that we can't speak to yet, but really being able to build this like specialized suite of products so that if you own a Now Pass and you access the Now Network, you can then kind of choose your own adventure with like different offerings that really speak to you and what what success in Web3 and beyond means to you. Sam, anything you want to add there?
Nailed it.
Boom.
I love it. Your energy, both
Aaron,
of your energy.
though,
Yeah, shout out Aaron. Both of your energies are quite infectious. I'm excited to see where you guys take your vision of tokenized media, the Now Network, and the success of the Now Pass. Guys, before we wrap up, where can we learn more? Where can we stay in touch? Chill it away.
Yeah, 100%. So look, to learn more about the Now Pass specifically, go to nowpass.xyz. You can also follow the Now Pass dedicated Twitter at the Now Pass on Twitter. To learn more about the Now Network and everything we're building for the future of tokenized media, go to nftnow.com. You'll see an op-ed pinned to the top there, authored by myself and Alejandro on Web2 Media is Broken, the future of media is tokenized, where we talk about why Web2 media is broken and why the future of media is tokenized, and what will be offered for the Now Network in its first step. And then you can always follow along with NFT Now on Twitter at NFT Now.
I love it. Sam, any last words?
Grateful for everything that you're building. Grateful for you having us on the show today. Grateful for everybody that's tuned in and listening. And ultimately just very grateful that we have an opportunity to uplift and showcase and empower the different creators of culture and different people that are really at the forefront of this kind of technological movement. So it's not us, it's our community.
I love it. You guys are killing it. Excited to see what happens. We'll have to do this again soon, but until then, appreciate you guys for being on.
Thank you, Adam.
Cheers, Adam. Keep up the great work, man.